All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you again. So my name is Neil Johnston. I serve as the Director of Accelerator Programs here at the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute. This is the first in 4 workshops that we are going to be running leading up to this year's Be Your Own Boss Bowl. The topic of this session tonight is competition overview and getting started. And so this will have lots of great resources for anyone wherever you are in the business plan development stage. So if you are thinking about an idea, you've got some sort of semblance of where you want to go, but aren't quite sure how to get there, all the way up to your business has launched and you've raised some money, and you're just looking to enter this competition for some feedback or the opportunity to become a finalist. Anywhere and in between, we are here for you. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So just quickly, the BYOBB is a pitch competition that offers mentorships, workshops, funding, and service prizes for entrepreneurs launching high potential new ventures. This competition, like all of the things that we do here, are open to all members of the Temple community, which includes students, faculty, staff, and alum from all 17 schools and colleges. We'll go more into a little bit about eligibility in a bit here. A copy of this presentation will be put onto the resources folder, which I'll show you all how to get to, and it will also be linked below in the YouTube page if you are interested. So, step 1, in terms of getting started, if you have not joined, I think all of you have that are here, which is great. For those of you watching, if you have not joined, Startup Tree is the first resource that I would direct people towards. This is our hub for pretty much all that we do outside the classroom here at the IEI. So it's where you can get connected with a mentor. It's where you will submit your entry into the competition. It's where we do a lot of RSVPs for workshops like this or upcoming things. So it's a really great resource. It's free. We do not spam you. We don't, overwhelm your inbox with a ton of stuff. But it's a really great opportunity. And so the link to Temple's Startup Tree is there. And then you can also see stuff in the Philly region as well. So the QR code directly to the BYOBB, the submission portal, is right there. I just took a screen capture earlier today of kind of what it looks like. Pretty self-explanatory, so you are welcome to join or submit anytime. I'll go over some key dates, but I know the competition deadline is March 11th at 11:59 Eastern. So you've got some time here, right? A little over a month and a half at this point. We purposely, for those of you that are undergrad and graduate students, I guess faculty and staff as well, not so much for our alums, we put it after spring break because we know nothing that you want to do more than work during spring break on your business plan competition, but we intentionally built it in so that you could have that week to work on it. This is our third getting started step. This is all of the important resources that you could potentially use in order to get access to the pitch competition. So it's got things like templates, slide deck, resources, and helpful tips and tricks. This is where we will post the recordings of this as well as the slides. You can see past judging, scoring rubrics, all kinds of other information. So hopefully anything that you can see on this resource folder will lead you to a stronger and more well thought out submission. I gave the pitch for Startup Tree a little bit ago, but the piece that I really want to highlight here is some mentoring help. And so on your Startup Tree profile, in the top corner, on the top toolbar, you will see an icon called Mentor. That is where you can sign up to meet with a mentor. All of our mentors know that the BYOBB has launched, and so they are expecting folks to reach out to ask about it. Some of them have even kind of given themselves a tag within the system that says BYOBB Mentor, and so they've either mentored people before or they have a semblance of kind of what the competition is. And so they are kind of more expert resources around the specific competition. If you want to reach out to any of them, they can help you with any aspect of your submission. You might just need to explain to them a little bit more about what the BYOBB is or what specifically it is you're looking for some guidance on. And then, so this will again take you to the submission portal, but if you scroll all the way down, this will have the listing of all of the workshops that we are running. So next week is going to be market opportunity and the competitive landscape. That one, we are going to get a really helpful walkthrough from the Charles Library, the business librarian, so the person that specializes in all things Fox School of Business, for some really great resources for everybody as to how to search for businesses, how to do some research to help make your submission stronger. I was chatting before we got started, but preparing financial projections is the following week. That is the one that I think people have the most questions on. That's the one that really I think people maybe get a little bit too hung up on. So hopefully you can attend or watch that one and give you a real sense of kind of what we're looking for in that space. And then last is crafting your pitch. And that is really about how do you give a presentation? What should be included in a slide deck? Maybe what shouldn't be included in a slide deck? How do you lean into your style? How do you push yourself to maybe go outside your comfort zone if you don't feel like you're the best public speaker? All those things are going to be covered in crafting your pitch. Some key dates. So like I said, the bolded one, kind of second from the top here, is March 11th, the submission deadline. The 2 days before that, we will actually reach out to some of those BYOBB mentors that I showed you how to get to on the Startup Tree page. They will make themselves available for kind of any last minute advice on the 9th and 10th. As with all things, I would advise you not to wait till the last minute. This expert mentoring time is not, oh, I haven't started my submission yet. I need, can we sit down and go through every single bullet phase, phase by phase? That's not what this is for. This is for, hey, I'm going back and forth about this aspect of my pitch deck, or, I'm really stuck with this one section of my executive summary. Can we look at it together and you can give me some feedback? So they will make themselves available. I think we're going to try and do some stuff in person as well as over Zoom. And so you can meet with them one-on-one and just get, like I said, some last minute advice as to, hey, I need some help kind of getting over the finish line to get my submission portal ready to go. So like I said, submissions due March 11th. March 25th is when we will announce the finalists. If you make it to become a finalist, and more about that in a second, April 1st through 8th is going to be when we do pitch coaching sessions. I will say for everybody, we are going to make this mandatory that you need to attend a pitch coaching session before, if you are named a finalist. So we will ask you to commit to that if you are named a finalist at some point during that week. And then April 15th, regardless of if you are a finalist or not, would love for people to come to our pitch event and award ceremony. It all happens here in one night. We'll have it catered nicely. We'll do a nice little presentation, and it's going to be a really great night of pitches and questions from our judges. So I think I went through a lot right there. Any questions? I'm going to come up and get a drink of water, see if there's any. Yes. So the question was, is mentoring available throughout the application process? So yes, if you go, let me just cycle back. If you go to Startup Tree and click on the mentor, they are ready to go now. They're available all the time. But again, I've just kind of alerted them, hey, the BYOBB has launched, so folks might be reaching out. So wanted to share that with you. Yeah. Great question. I'm going to go over what a submission is in just a little bit. There are a few aspects to it, and we'll go through all of them. Other questions? Cool. All right. I know a lot of folks are interested in kind of, in addition to getting some great feedback and the opportunity to submit, what is available to you. So we have cash and in-service prizes. So in-service prizes really are, we've asked for donations from some friends of Temple, from some alumni of Temple in the marketing space. And so they've put together a X number of dollars marketing package that the finalists are able to take advantage of. One that we always like to do and that we'll be reaching out about is Amazon Web Services. And so they will, make an in-kind donation and you can host your website for your product on Amazon Web Services. This is for the finalists for a certain number of, I think it's 2 years, I think is what it's for, but don't quote me on that. So there are 2 tracks and they are, we talked about all that. Okay. Two tracks, prizes within each track, and then a grand prize. We are doing a startup studio program, which is going to happen in the summer. More on that to come for the finalists, but just know that there are a few requirements that we will ask you to do if you are named a finalist and you end up winning money. We want to set you up for success, and so this is really an opportunity to kind of further your idea, and we're not just handing you a bunch of cash and saying, hey, you're good to go. In terms of the overall grand prize, it's going to look similar to last year. I should say that last year, that grand prize winner walked away with $60,000, so $60,000 towards their small business venture. And this was, I won't say no strings attached, but this is not, we're not buying equity in your company. We're not, here's this money and then we want a seat on your board when you get one, or, we reserve the right to trademark this, right? This is given to us through some donations, through our operating budget, and we want to support small business ventures from the Temple community in that way. The first, second, third, fourth place prizes kind of scale down from there, but that's kind of where the grand prize ends up. I talked about the in-kind service packages. There's also a crowd favorite award, so all of the finalists are eligible to become a crowd favorite. Our partners at IBIT do the Digital Innovation Award. I think that one was for $1,000 as well. And then our partners over at the iNest. Is anyone familiar with the I-Core program? Yeah, so it's a regional, startup community that takes on different cohorts. I think they kind of rotate around the region, but it's a really cool opportunity. And so the iNest will sponsor you to go participate in the I-Core program if you are named a finalist. So I think that's it for that. Let's talk about eligibility. So the leader of your team must have a Temple University affiliation. And so that means you either need to be a current degree-seeking student, that degree-seeking can be important, a alumni, a faculty member, or a staff member at Temple. So the leader of your team, aka you, must have that Temple University affiliation. This is for new businesses or existing businesses that are less than 5 years old and have raised no more than $50,000 from external institutional sources, a gross sales of less than 100K, and it must be a for-profit business. We definitely encourage cross-discipline teams, and so if somebody here is from the College of Liberal Arts and they want to pair up with somebody from the School of Engineering, love that, right? Those two kind of go together. If somebody from the business school wants to pull in somebody from the Tyler School of Art and Architecture to help with the marketing aspects of it, right? Love that. Love for the cross-disciplinary teams to exist. You can all be from the same school or from the same cohort or whatever, but if you need help getting matched up with someone, we can definitely help facilitate that. Yes. Yep. So the question was, if you don't have a team and you're a solo entrepreneur, totally fine too. So you can enter as just by yourself, but up to 4 team members is kind of our cutoff. Yeah. Yeah, the less than 5, so the question was for an existing business less than 5 years old as of January 1st, 2026. And if you have questions about that, you can reach out to me, right? It's a little wonky of when does a business become a business, right? We can have that conversation. So any other questions about eligibility? Okay. Let me just make sure. So I don't think, I lost the slide. So I want to talk about the 2 tracks real quick. So we do, within this competition, we do 2 tracks, one undergraduate track and then an upper track. So undergraduate track is if all members of your team, and I should emphasize that all members of your team are current undergraduate students at Temple University. Upper track is for anybody that is a current graduate student, an alumni, or faculty or staff member. So pretty self-explanatory, but if there is one member of your team that falls into that upper track category, you will be submitted into the upper track. We just want to make it fair and kind of, set the expectation that, the undergraduates are in their track by themselves, and then the upper track is for, like I said, alumni, graduate students, faculty, and staff. Okay, So the format is tied to real world requirements of accelerators and investors. And so we will be asking you to prepare an investor style pitch deck. I'll go over what that is. An executive summary, 1 to 2 pages, and then a 3-year financial projection or income statement. So this is what the submission is. And so as you are thinking about, kind of what a submission would look like, kind of put it in your mind of, okay, I'm going to do an investor style pitch deck. I'm going to do an executive summary that's 1 to 2 pages that kind of captures everything about my business plan, and then a 3-year financial projection. Again, examples of all of these things can be found in the submission resource folder, which I have linked in this slide, and again, will be in the YouTube video. So feel free to peruse those and kind of get your mind going as to what those look like. So I'm going to go through all these kind of step by step, just so you again have a sense. Again, we'll go over in a couple weeks what a little bit more in depth about the financial projections for the investor style pitch deck. We'll go over that on the last session about crafting your pitch. And then the executive summary is pretty self-explanatory, but we can chat about that offline. Any questions about any of this? Okay, great. All right, so the goals for the rest of this presentation are we want to provide you with an overview of topics that must be covered in your submission. We want to share some tips for thinking about and structuring your submission, and then share some tips for how you actually complete your submission. So just quick show of hands. I have 2 kind of paths to kind of categorize people into. Are you in thinking about the idea that you were thinking about submitting? Raise your hand, kind of looking at these 2. Raise your hand if this is more, if your submission plan is more the lifestyle or family business. It's not really scalable. You're not really looking to sell the company at some point. You don't really have an exit strategy, right? This is maybe not what you're going to do for life, but what you're going to do for the foreseeable future. Raise your hand if that's kind of where your submission falls. Nobody? Okay, great. So that means that everyone else is at the highly scalable, maybe needs some capital to this, and you've got an exit strategy, right? You are hoping to maybe at some point sell this business and then kind of move on to the next thing. Does that feel where most people fit? Okay, seeing some head shakes. Great. Okay. Again, nothing, neither one of these is better or worse. There's not a right one or a wrong one, but it's just helpful. These are, again, kind of historically the kinds of businesses that, or business plans that have been submitted to the business plan competition, but helpful to just kind of know who's in the room thinking about that second bullet point. Just maybe think for a second amongst yourselves, and I'll give myself an opportunity to drink some water. Who should you be targeting with your pitch? And then what topics should be included in your pitch deck? So just think about that, maybe jot some notes down to yourself, either on your phone app or on a piece of paper in front of you. How do you think you would answer these questions? Am I coming through? Okay, good. All right, let's just shout some things out. Who should you be targeting with your pitch? What do you think? Investors, great, absolutely. Who else? Targeted customers, yep. Give me one more. Yeah. Yeah, potential people that connect you, right? Maybe somebody doesn't have money, but hey, I've got a connection to somebody that does, or it sounds like you need help with your marketing efforts. I know somebody that would be a great chief marketing officer. Great. And then we'll go over what topics should be included in your pitch, but hopefully you jotted some of those down too. So we ask you to do an investor/bank pitch. And so just basically what that means is it's a 7-minute presentation with an investor focus. And so while you will be pitching to, as a finalist, to the 3 judges that will be sitting in this room, you should be thinking about this as if you were pitching to a group of investors. Again, I should say the 3 judges are not obligated to invest in your company. They might want to if you do a really great job, but they are not going to be specifically investing in your company. It's going to be us at the IEI that is doing that. The investor bank pitch also grabs attention early and keeps it by hitting highlights. And it also leaves investors eager to know more. So a little bit different. Has anyone participated in any of our pitch competitions in the past, not the BYOBB version, or been to any of them? I think some of you have. Yeah. The Ideas and Impact, yep, that we ran in the fall. So those were 3-minute presentations, right? And that was really just kind of a quick overview. This is 7 minutes, so it's a little bit more in depth, but it's also different than a 30 or 45-minute presentation in which you do go in depth and you're, maybe going kind of line by line in your financial projections, or you're, really talking about where you see your growth happening year by year. This, again, I like to hit on that last bullet point. It leaves investors eager to know more, because the thought is, right, somebody in this room might want to come up and talk to you afterwards and say, hey, I really like that. Let's grab coffee and you can tell me more about it, sort of thing. It is not a technology presentation, and it is not a sales presentation. And again, this is also not an opportunity to get into the weeds. 7 minutes feels like a long time. I promise you, as you start practicing, it's really not. And so you want to keep this high level. You want to, showcase what you're doing and have a good pitch. But this is not an opportunity to say, the first stage of my development is blah, 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 blah. And the second, right, we're not getting into the weeds with this presentation. Any questions about this before I move on? Yeah. Yeah. So the question was, if we have a tech company, do we have to present how it works or what code we used or anything like that? Did I get that right? Okay. So I would say how it works, yes. What code you used, probably not. Unless the code that you used is something that you developed that is like part of, you developed this code to sell the code, right? I would maybe talk about that a little bit. But if you have created a platform that, does something else, and the code is important to what you do, but it's not like you're not selling the code, then no, don't talk about the code that you used. Does that make sense? So making an impact with your message. I know that this presentation is, for this slide, is a little bit more of do as I say, not as I do. But I always like to put this up there because I think it's really helpful. You are up here giving a presentation and you've got a screen behind you with facts and figures or maybe some bullet points. And hopefully what they see up there matches up with what you say, and that overlap is pretty big. What you don't want is a lot of text and you're reading it line by line, because then people start to lose focus. You also don't want to be talking about something with no reference point and maybe just a picture, unless you're going to highlight something in the picture. So this is, again, we'll get into more of this with the last session on crafting your pitch, but just kind of broad strokes, be thinking about, what are you saying while the slide is up there versus what's on the slide behind you as you are talking. All right, so what do investors want to know? First and foremost, they want to know what the problem is. They may be experts in their fields or in a couple of different fields, but they're not an expert in your field. The most important thing that I like to highlight for this is, what is your solution? And most importantly, how are you different? We'll talk about some examples in a second as we get into some example pitch decks. But I think the biggest mistake that I've seen a lot of submitters make is they have not done, I will even say, some cursory research on what is out there. And so they're maybe pitching this idea, and there is a product that is already at market, already at scale, at a much cheaper cost than maybe they are, and they just didn't take the time to research it and kind of see what was out there. So make sure that when you were offering your solution, how is that different than everything else that exists in the marketplace today? This why are you and the team that you have, why are you all the ones to solve the problem? This gets into maybe a little bit more of that personal story. I'm really passionate about X. That's why I saw this problem Y, and why I have this solution Z that I think could be really beneficial to getting it solved. And then the investor also wants to know, last, maybe not least, when will you make me money? And so I'm going to give you, this amount of money, and I'm expecting it back in, a few months, a few years, whatever kind of timeline you kind of anticipate turning it around and turning to profit. Again, we'll get into more of that with the financial projections workshop. Any questions about this slide? Yeah. So the question was, are these the criteria that you are being judged on? Broad strokes, yes. There is a judging rubric in and a kind of a breakdown of all of the core components in the submission folder, which you'll be able to see. And they all kind of hit on this in some way or another. I'm not going to go over this, but this is kind of line by line, but this is, I think, a really great opportunity or this is a really great way to showcase why this is something that is passionate to you. So it kind of starts with why now. Again, what was the triggering event? You know, did something happen to a family member or to you personally that kind of energized you around this? All the way to, you know, the call to action or the ask for the investors that are sitting in front of you. So this is just one way to kind of go through or to structure your pitch. Again, kind of does it in about 10 slides. So thinking about things like desirability, viability, and feasibility, it kind of falls under all those three categories. This is not the only way. This is not the best way. This is not, you know, the required way that you address or craft your pitch deck. But it is a way, and it can also be a good exercise for you to think about, you know, how do I get here? Another kind of way, thinking about general topics to uncover. So this is, again, a suggested flow, but every story is different, right? There is a user customer or user/customer target market that in this one kind of follows on the third slide. But maybe that makes more sense kind of towards the end, and you want to lay out your management team maybe closer to the front as to why they are the ones to help you solve this issue. So all of these things, again, are important. They can be in a different order. You can, you know, double up on some of these. You can leave some of these off. But this is, again, another kind of way for you to think about, okay, I've got this idea. I have this, you know, thought as to how I'm going to lay these out. Here's a way that you can kind of do it in thinking about structuring your slide deck. Yes. Intellectual property, that does not need to be for everyone, but that is if your idea is something that has that you've gotten a patent for or you've applied for, you know, you are the one that owns the rights to this. You want to show that kind of at that point in this. It's not required for this. That's why it says it's got the star that says if appropriate. Does that make sense? Cool. Yeah, trip over that if I put that there. Okay. So this is the executive summary. This one I say, you know, I would say for everything else, you've got a little bit of leeway. You can kind of flow in and out. You can pick and choose. This one, the executive summary, is pretty standard. This covers all the elements of a business plan, and I would definitely make sure that you include them all. While you don't have to follow this like exact format in terms of the grab, the opportunity, the product, the management team, blah, 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 you do want to make sure that like all of these things are covered, because the executive summary is, you know, you've got this 7-minute pitch that you're going to be making in front of these investors, in front of the audience. An executive summary is, hey, I'm going to hand this to you, and you're going to have a few minutes to kind of read it on your own, jot some notes down, ask me questions about later. This is not what's going to happen during the pitch competition, but that's kind of what the role of an executive summary is, and kind of bullet points all of the aspects of your business plan. Again, some great examples of executive summaries are in the resource folder. And I do know that our speaker next week, Adam from the library, is going to be talking about a resource to find other executive plans in the Temple library system. So questions about this? Okay. And you can use any software you want. You can use Canva, you can use Adobe, you can use I don't know, just Prezi still exists, Prezi to lay out something like this, Microsoft Word, whatever you, there's not like a preferred software platform for this. So the submission requirements for financials, I'm going to kind of breeze through these because again, we're doing a whole session on financials in a couple weeks. But for now, just know that you need a 3-year income statement that is detailed as well as includes assumptions. And so assumptions are, my best guess is that I am going to, in 2.5 years, be at this stage. A financial slide in the pitch deck. So it's basically a summarized income statement. Again, I invite you to look at that resource folder because there are some great examples there. And then a financial section within the executive summary. So you're going to summarize some key points from your 3-year income statement. You're going to talk about your revenue model, your profit margins, your key indicators, financial resources that you have and need, cost to launch, and any other major assumptions. Again, we'll go over all of this in greater depth in a couple of weeks, but just kind of laying out the basic groundwork. Yes. Right. Yeah. So the question was for new businesses, this is all projected, it's not actual. So how do you, what was the second? Right. Right. So the question again was, what's the purpose to provide the main financials if everybody thinks their business is going to be successful and no one's going to put in there that they're going to be losses? And it's right, and 3 years is maybe a long time, maybe not a long time. I think again, we'll go. I hate to delay the answer to your question for 2 weeks. We'll go into this more in a couple weeks. The main purpose of this is to show yes, some optimism, but hopefully some realism too in this. Right? It's a little bit unrealistic to say I have this idea for a brand new cell phone. I think in the first year it's going to cost me $100,000 to get up and running, but I am the best marketer in the world. I'm going to, put Apple and Verizon and all them out of business. And so in 2 years, I'm going to be making $1.5 billion. Bad example, right? Way skewed. But I think you can kind of see within there, right? Like there's got to be some sort of, okay, we understand that you might be losing money in the first year and a half, maybe even 2 years. But, I think this is also opportunity for you within the executive summary, or especially within the pitch deck, to talk about, okay, I see that in year 2 to 3, you make a jump and you do start turning a profit. Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Have you hired more people in your mind at that time? Has, your business or your software gone through a couple rounds of beta testing and you are now ready to go to market? That sort of thing. So that's really the purpose of the 3-year statement. Great. Again, all in the Google shared folder. You can look this up, but these are really helpful to see. That's the basic income statement template that you are welcome to download and use for yourself. Always like to highlight, even though it's called Read Me First, but the Read Me First financial projections. Again, that kind of gives you a sense of how to lay these out, all that sort of stuff. Again, this is what it says. I'm not going to go through this, but that's just so that you have a sense of kind of what that looks like. Okay. So again, think about just to yourself these 3 questions. Who is the user/customer for your idea? What is their problem? And why do you know about this problem? This is really kind of getting to some of those first quote unquote slides that we showed in the example ones earlier. So these are helpful things to think about. I'm going to pause and take another drink of water and let you all either jot those down or just think about them, because I think this is a good way to kind of get started in thinking about this. I like to highlight this because how you introduce this, that's the tone. Is there If this is the time for there to be an emotional appeal or connection, again, right? Is there a story that happened to you or a family member? Did something really impactful kind of start you on this journey? How you introduce this here is really what kind of sets this off. And so this is a great way to kick it off if there is that emotional appeal or connection. Now we're getting into the product description and service. Again, we talked about this a little bit ago, but don't get into weeds. This is not like a sales pitch and you're not breaking down, you know, it costs this much per unit and we're hoping to sell this many units in the first few years. And again, this is not, okay, my code, the code that I used is, you know, I don't know anything about coding, but here's why my code. You want to briefly explain your product or service. Why and how does it solve the defined problem? Again, how are you different or unique, or why are you positioned well to solve this issue? And then any diagrams, photos, or videos can also fit in this kind of product service description. I would say in this part, using those should be used sparingly, if at all. And so if you have the opportunity to showcase your product in action, you can do that here. Otherwise, you know, it's not absolutely necessary. And shouldn't kind of be force fed in there. Do I need a real working product or service? If you have one, yes, show it. Bring it up on stage with you. Put it on the table in front of the judges. If you've got a prototype or a wireframe or you've got drawings, you are welcome to do that. Don't build it before you validated the problem and solution fit or the product and market, right? Don't just build something to build it. There should be some real world usage or opportunities for you to use it. And when you do bring it up or do reference it, talk about how does it solve the problem or show how it works. And again, talk about, you know, this product is in front of you and here's why it is a competitive advantage to everything else. We talked earlier about the minimum viable product. So why would you build something that nobody wants? The greatest example that we like to reference a lot in the classes that IEI teaches is Dropbox. So Dropbox launched as a landing page just to kind of test their concept and gain interest. 75,000 people responded and signed up as subscribers before any code was written. So this is, again, an opportunity to say, again, we put some marketing effort behind this. We kind of pushed this Dropbox product out. And we got almost 100,000 people that said, yes, we would be interested in this, again, without any sort of code or anything being written. So this really shows, you know, will somebody pay for this? Yes. And is there an aim for pre-sale or subscribers? That's another way to kind of gauge the interest of this. Again, not saying you have to do this and not saying that, you know, all successful submissions in the BYOBB have done this, but there's just, again, an opportunity to think about how does a minimum viable product kind of help you get that next step up. Another minimum viable product example that we like to give is Zappos. I think they're still in business. Don't quote me on that, but they created a basic e-commerce website. They purchased no shoe inventory. Basically what they did is they partnered with a bunch of local stores. When a customer ordered from them, they went into the stores themselves, bought the shoes, and shipped them out. They found, again, that there was an opportunity for this, a desire for this. Their goal was to see, will people buy shoes online? The answer was yes. And so, again, they didn't have a warehouse, you know, with a storage yet. They didn't have, you know, their own shipping or anything like that. This was really just kind of a chance to say, hey, if we put these shoes up online and we run to the stores and grab them, will people be interested in purchasing them online? Because this may be hard to imagine, but for a while you needed to go to a shoe store to buy shoes before you could just buy them online. What if I have no revenue and how do I show traction? So investors definitely want to see traction, and traction can exist at various levels. So it can be real customers, like sales equals revenue. It can be pre-sale signups that we talked about, again, those alpha or beta customers, or pre-sales with deposits. Mailing lists, et cetera, like this is capturing emails, you know, hey, I'm interested, you know, put me on your sign-up list, or, you know, I subscribe to your newsletter and I read it. You know, there are all kinds of email marketing campaigns out there that see who opened it and how long they stayed on the page for, who clicked through, all that sort of stuff. Same thing with website click-throughs to additional pages. And then good old-fashioned personal interviews that you can either capture, you know, direct in-person insights or get some feedback over email. Same thing with surveys. These are all ways to show traction. And so if you haven't made any sales and you have the opportunity to do a little bit of this before, again, not saying you have to if you want to submit to this competition, but these are some potential ways that you could show traction without showing revenue. Yeah. Yep. So the question was, do we have to play the interview or show a video of it? No. Again, I would say if it is really impactful, right, you've got somebody breaking down in tears, talking about how this product changed my life and like I'm a better person for it because I use this product, and it seems genuine, not like a paid actor to do it, sure, you might want to consider that. But I think just throwing a quote up there kind of captures the same thing, right? Here's this, whatever, single parent who's been really struggling. They used my service and now they're doing great. And talk about how they use it every day and their child has benefited from it, right? That quote is impactful in addition to just a video. I should say just a video, in addition to a video. Okay. Simply Good Jars. This is a Temple alum, but you can see the example is their product description is just a picture, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. It's a tiny little fridge that's got jars of freshly prepared food that you can open up, pay for. You can kind of see the the two steps that they have. You see the kind of icons for vegan, vegetarian, dairy-free, gluten-free, kind of on everything. This is a kind of a great description of kind of showing a good example of showing what a product description is without using any words or any text. Sorry for the blurriness of this. I'm going to go through three kind of attempts at this glucose monitors testing. And so this first attempt is there's a bit of text on the page for those of you that can't see, right? It talks about strips, and then it's got 3 bullet points. It's got about another one about continuous monitoring, and about 4 or 5 bullet points after that, along with a couple pictures. Again, don't mind the blurry. Theirs was not blurry. This was just the best version that I could find. So yes, helpful, but maybe not, as clean as something maybe a little bit more like this. Their second attempt, again, our mission: no more finger sticks. Convenient, infection-free, non-invasive glucose measurement in real time throughout the day and night. Kind of talks a little bit about some insulin types, performance athlete, gestational diabetes, kind of all the things that it can be used for, with the big circle and X through the old finger prick test. So again, there's a little bit more, a little bit less text on this option number 2 than there is on this option number 1, but still kind of cumbersome, right? Still a lot going on. To kind of get you to understand what this glucose monitoring today product is all about. And then the third attempt, really nice, clean, and simple. Our mission: no more finger sticks. That just shows somebody sticking their finger with the glucose monitor in days of yore. And so, again, this is the even more simplified version of kind of what they are hoping to do through all of this stuff down to here. So everyone kind of see that journey as to how they got there and maybe, what fits. These might fit more maybe in a sales pitch or those technical pitches, but for an investor pitch, this third attempt is really the one that kind of, I think, belongs the best. Any questions? We're getting close to the end, I think, here. We talked about intellectual property. So do you have a proprietary and defensible position? Do you have licensing arrangements, patent filed, and if so, what type? Are there trade secrets or copyrights or trademark? This is an additional security blanket for investors. It does not apply to every presentation, and it is okay if you do not use this slide. Again, I always get the question of, what's to prevent, I want to enter this competition and I'm talking to a mentor or I'm talking to you, Neil, and, what's to prevent you from stealing my idea? I don't want to tell you too much. There's a quote, I forget who it's attributed to, but there are millions and millions of ideas out there, but you are the one that has the drive to see this through and push it to the end. And so I could, yes, steal your idea, but I can't steal your passion for it. And so that's why, again, we always like to talk about, as you start off this presentation, what is the triggering point for this? Why are you the person to solve this issue? And so, I should say, I, as well as the other mentors, cannot steal your ideas. That we are kind of contractually bound by that. But just thinking about how all this works, I know that people are sometimes hesitant to take on mentors or think about that without signing disclosure agreements or anything like that. Just know that that is not what any of us are here for. We are here to, again, help you see your idea through to the fullest potential. And really what you are bringing to the table is, yes, your idea, but also your passion to see it through to the end. Go-to-market strategy. So how will you reach your target customers and drive revenues? What are the marketing channels that you are going to use? And then how will you make money? So again, we talked about, are you licensing technology? Is this a freemium into the premium model sort of thing? These are all things that you can include in your go-to-market strategy in order to bring your idea to market. I love this slide in talking about factors to consider for an ideal go-to-market strategy framework. Again, really nice and simple. Target audience, what are the channels, packaging and pricing, and customer acquisition and the cost strategy. So how are you bringing new customers in or keeping the ones that you have, and how do you get there using those first three icons? So what are the key messages? So this is go-to-market strategy continue. What are the key messages for your target market segments? How do you describe your marketing and sales plan? So maybe go into that a little bit more in depth, and what partnership or alliances are necessary. I love this last bullet point. Do not just say you are going to use social media to get the word out. Everybody uses social media. There's, it's very hard to kind of break through these days. I can't just decide to go viral. I can try my hardest, but you need to have some other strategies. That strategy could include, there are some influencers that have a large following that I'm in preliminary talks with to be a brand partner or a brand ambassador, and they're going to come on and, their previous brand partnerships or ambassadorships have shown X percentage of growth. That's very different than just saying, I'm going to start an Instagram page and, get traction that way. You see the difference kind of between the two? Okay. Here's some examples of some go-to-market strategies. This is for, thinking about how can this legal service for immigrants be used by the lawyers up top, and then how can it be used for the immigrants that are benefiting from the service. And so again, if you've got kind of these two kind of customer paths or two user paths, how can you incorporate them into one? This is a nice kind of clean way to think about this. Again, you would be talking about, if this was the example, lawyers can use these at events like conferences and law school events through partnerships or directly, and the immigrants can use them in these ways as well. So this is kind of what I would be talking about if I had this slide behind me for this idea. Funding and usage, I'm going to go a little bit quickly on this one, but basically the goal is, to show past investment, current need, and then primary use of funds. So if you were awarded this money, what would you do with it? This is a good thing to include in your pitch deck because, again, it's showing the investors, I've got a plan for how I would use this money and it would benefit me because it would take me from step A to step B, and that's really important in my business plan journey. Again, lots of kind of examples here that you can dive more into, but and I would say, so again, the grand prize total that we used last year was $60,000. If you don't need outside funding beyond the BYOBB, use that as your ask. You are welcome to ask for more, right? There are other investors here, so it's good for them to kind of hear this, but yeah, I just wanted to share that piece. So this is, again, an example that I pulled from the example slide decks of what a funding and use slide would look like. So you can see the ask, you can see the manufacturing, kind of all the different things that it would be used for, the IP portfolio, the team expansion, all that sort of stuff, kind of what you were thinking it would be used for, and kind of when you would be making that next ask, and kind of where it would get you from there. Again, if your projections don't require an investor funding and you don't need information about exit strategy, you do not need to include this. But if you kind of are at that stage where you've launched and you're thinking about, hey, I have an exit strategy and I think that Amazon is somebody that I've been in talks with that might buy this, or a larger company wants to kind of roll me into their portfolio. These are all things to consider putting in your presentation for that aspect of it. Again, another example of an acquisition activity slide, again, pulled from the slide deck resources page. We will go over this more in depth, but these are ones, some pitch deck guidelines that I like to just remind people of, or kind of put people towards. The two ones in particular are never say this estimate is conservative and never say we have no competition. Right? An estimate is an estimate. You don't need to clarify it. And you may think you have no competition, but there's something out there that can do something similar, or there's something out that will come along that will provide you some competition. So there are different ways that you can say that without saying we have no competition. All right, I think, yes. So we are, that was our last kind of slide in terms of the content of kind of the competition overview and what to expect. And so here are my next steps that I always advise people to do. So utilize mentoring resources like Startup Tree Mentors. Temple has the SBDC. Should have taken Blackstone Launchpad off because that's no longer there. Attend the workshops again, and that one's not correct as well. Sorry. Next week is Market Landscape. Definitely do your research and validate your key assumptions, and then get feedback. So these are all things that you should be doing throughout this process. And I always like to say, if you are, if your product is a bioengineering something or other, give this to, make your pitch or give your executive summary to your friend that is an English major, or your sibling that works in the visual arts or theater space. You want to be getting feedback from people across the spectrum, because they might point something out to you and say, you spent too much time on this, or hey, you speak bioengineering, but I don't, so spend a little bit more time on that just so that everyone's up to speed. So really use those resources to your advantage. This is just our kind of IEI branded tips for winning the BYOBB. So definitely understand the requirements, make sure that you are eligible, and that you do that. Have a plan for completing your submission, right? We're only about a month and a half away from the submission date. Question I always like to ask is, how do you eat an elephant? Who knows the answer? One bite at a time, very good. Build a team. That doesn't have to be, right, people that are submitting with you. That's partners, that's advisors, that's mentors. Attend the workshops and definitely utilize our mentors. Last and certainly not least is hit submit. The number of times I've gotten an email after a pitch competition the next morning that says, oh my gosh, I didn't hit submit. We will handle those as they come in, but just make sure you hit submit. Some other resources that are available to you are the Temple SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center. They are located on the 7th floor of Alter Hall, and they are open to, they're really an external facing. They go out into the community. They kind of are a service that Temple provides, but they are also for members of the Temple community. The Temple Writing Lab in the Student Success Center will not help you design your idea, or will not help you, kind of fill in the gaps. What they will do is help you write better and say, hey, the flow from this to this didn't really work for me. Like, let's maybe think about, rewording this, or, in your executive summary, you want to go a little bit more in depth here because I'm not quite understanding. And they're a great resource, again, kind of that outside the box, non-business perspective of what to bring. This is the QR code for next week's workshop. Again, market opportunity and the competitive landscape. I hope to see folks there. For our partners on YouTube, again, we will be recording this next week's presentation as well and putting it up on YouTube just so that you can see it. But would love for folks to attend in person because you can ask questions, you can network with each other, and all that good stuff. I think that is it. So I will pause and see if there are any other questions. Yes. Oh, you're welcome. Mm-hmm. The question was for the traction piece, does social media count? I would say it is, if it is an impressive number, I would include it, right? I launched my social media web, page for this product, and I got X number of followers within X number of days, and those are a big number followed by a small number, right? In X number of days. Yes, include that. I think, you don't just want to say, I've got 100,000 followers and then kind of leave it at that. I think you want to say, like, How are they engaging with it? Have they shared this, right? What are the, kind of ways that social media has led to some, I don't want to say real world. How has social media led to outside of social media usage or connection with your platform? I think is a really great thing, because I think a lot of numbers can just be, not saying somebody would buy bots, but like there could just be a bunch of bots following, or if there's not a ton of engagement, does that number really show anything? Is what I would say. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you all for being here, both in person and virtually. I will stick around to answer any questions and appreciate everyone being here. If you did not get a chance to sign in, come find Jaden so we can make sure that we got you. And otherwise, stay safe, stay warm, and have a great rest of your night.